Welcome to the Blend Podcast.
Welcome back to the Blend Podcast. Today we get to listen to Iain Hutchison, successful businessman, owner of cool cars, a Spitfire. Have a listen to some great insights into how to set up a business, how to run one, how to lead a business. Gather around the campfire and have a listen. So, welcome, Iain. Lovely to have you with us today. Thanks for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come share your journey. I've been starting off with how do you like your coffee has been my opener. So how do you like your coffee?
Oh man, it's awful, Sandeep. I can't wait to get back to Blend where the real stuff is. No, it's great. It's very good. Yeah, much better than the coffee I make. So,
and how do you, and blend? What's your go-to in blend?
So the go-to is your team knows I go in. It's a regular latte, generally to go with 1 brown sugar, and I'm practically at the point where I can wave at the door. And it's being made as I come in. So every now and again I throw them when I have a large or something. It's just, but no, it's great. And I'm particularly fond of the pesto paninis.
Oh, okay,
that's they're good. And the snails. You know, the Danish wraps.
Oh, the Danish wraps.
But I got to be really careful with those, because now when you're in your 50s, everything, I'm in it on the lips and it's 2 years on the hips.
We realise we're an addiction business. We do. Empires are been built on coffee and sugar, and that's what tobacco is the only thing we don't do. But so yeah, no, it's great, and it's been lovely getting to know you as well as a customer, and then personally, it's been. You went from the man with look at that lovely car, and you definitely like your cars, and then getting to know who you are. So tell us about a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Let's take the car thing. It's a really interesting point. So it's amazing how image, rightly or wrongly, can project and move you forward, and just like that, possibly not work to your advantage. So the car, we're very fortunate. We a little bit disruptive in Merlin, and we recognised that no one knew about us. So when we started the business, how on earth are people going? How are we going to get our name out there? How do people find out about our business? How do our clients hear about Merlin and say, yeah, we want these guys to work with us and girls? And what do we do? And one of our marketing strategies to develop our positioning was an Aston Martin pool car, and that's the reaction I get. People go like, really? And you're going, yes, why not?
Yeah.
And I think if there's one thing, I'd like to encourage anyone in business and actually many other parts of life, don't be afraid, be brave, take the big thing. If people say it's ridiculous, reflect on that, but actually, is it going to achieve the goal that you want? And then, can you identify any unintended consequences? So yeah, we've got an Aston Martin pool car. We still have it. It gets a bit of criticism from time to time, and different people in the organisation. Not everybody sees it as valuable to the business, but that's good because you want that challenge. And it's been phenomenal. We've the publicity we've had from it, just the conversations. And that's what you want with a client. You don't want to be in and say, yeah, buy this because it's, this is what we want to do. What you want to do is, it's a conversation, it's a rapport with the client. If there's something you can talk about and a shared idea, understanding, interest. So I did a sales call in Aberdeen, and I was in to see there was 6 engineers and me, and I had just a short window because I was trying to get through 6 sales calls in one day, which was probably too many. And I had tight time frame, got in to see these guys, and I had 20 minutes with them before I had to get away to my next meeting. And they spent the first 10 minutes talking about the car. How's the car? What's it like? Because they're all young engineers, tech, petrol heads. And as the conversation goes on, I'm thinking, right, this is really good. We're establishing some positive common ground. We're talking with the car, we're enthusing about it. It's not my car, it's the company's car. So it's not that I've set myself up as a tall poppy, and it's it's British engineering, and it's it's everything we want to be associated with. The leader, the best quality, aspirational. But then we get into 10 minutes. I'm thinking, hang on, we've got to talk about work. It's pleasant to talk about the car, but actually, we need to forward what we do and stuff.
So what is Merlin? What do you do? What is the business?
So we drill the longest oil and gas wells in the world.
Oh.
That's the elevator pitch.
And you're based in Perth?
And we're based in Perth, Scotland, head of the...
Where all the oil is?
All the oil. People don't realise how many oil companies have these secret headquarters in Perth, Scotland. The whole hydrocarbon industry is run from Perth. Oh, well, no, it's not actually. There's no one else in oil in Perth. It's only us. We're consultant engineers. We design oil wells. Horizontal oil wells is the way to think about it, but they're extended reach, which allow the company to drill out from their platform or drill centre and tap into reserves at the edge of the reservoir, or perhaps even a small satellite field, and it avoids the need for an extra platform offshore to develop this satellite field. It invariably makes the economics better, so perhaps there's a small accumulation of hydrocarbon that otherwise wouldn't be economic if they had to develop with a new platform. If they can drill it from the same platform, then we're going to produce these reserves.
This is what fascinated me when I first found out about this. That my presumption is always that you drill going vertically down, and you suck it up like a straw. But yours is like a snake that can go under the ground and be directed in any direction horizontally, and to find other chambers.
That's exactly right, and we might tie in several targets or pockets of oil on the way down. It's if the client is fortunate enough to have that in their area. But we control the direction of the drill head to intersect with these accumulations, and then provide the conduit to produce it up to the surface. And a lot of people don't realise it's not just a large pool of oil. The oil is contained in the rock like a sponge. So you're drilling into sandstone or limestone, and then the oil's in all the pores, and it flows across the pores and into your well.
So what's a guy from Perth or Scotland doing in such a sort of frontline, high-end engineering? How do you get to that?
Yeah, lack of concentration on the experts that were running it before, and I snuck in the back door. I first got involved with... I did mechanical engineering at University at Heriot-Watt in Edinburgh, and then joined the oil industry back in the early 90s in Aberdeen, and all the wells are directional from the platforms. You can't move your platform. Your production platform is fixed to the seabed. So to develop the reservoir, they have to be directional wells. And the wells that we drill are like the granddaddy of directional wells. They're the big well examples. And so through experience in the North Sea, I ended up working overseas, and I worked for a consultancy that does a similar thing to Merlin. And this was in Australia. And then when I came back to Scotland, I saw the opportunity to set up and run a similar company from Scotland, and hopefully do it better than my experience had been with the initial company, and which was then bought over by a large multinational. And we've been here in Perth. Perth, we could have the business anywhere, so it doesn't matter where the business is, because we're not going to be with all our clients. Our clients are scattered all around the world. We work everywhere from South America to the Middle East to Alaska to Russia. We just work everywhere. So we're not going to be in the client's location. So we might as well be in a location which is great for the business. And it's great for the business because it's great for the individuals. So again, anyone listening that's on a business journey, identify what makes your business great and then lean towards that. So we've got some great people work for us, and we've been very, very fortunate to be able to attract those people. And Perth is part of that. Perth is an attractive place
to live, to bring up families, to
absolutely,
and schools, all that sort of
the schools. It's so great. It's a small city. You're 40 minutes from Edinburgh, you're an hour from Glasgow, you're an hour and a half up to Aberdeen. It's you fall out the door and you're in the countryside. So what we've seen recently with COVID and the lockdown in Perth, it's very easy to socially distance because there's not many people around. Whereas if you're in the West End of London and you're in a flat, you know, it's a bit harder. So quality of life is a huge thing, and that's something we focus on when we're recruiting, is the quality of life. So we have to pay a competitive salary, but actually the cost of living in Perth is lower as well. So you could actually take home a smaller pay packet, but still have a higher standard of life. And sometimes people don't realise that. They maybe chase the large numbers, but then they're paying away a fortune in rent for a property that's not particularly.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I find a lot of my friends are envious that I live here, you know, and we forget the privilege of living in Scotland and being close to airports. You can be anywhere in the world, but you've got a river and lochs within 10 miles of you. Yeah?
It's great. Where else would you want to live and why? And go through that why. Start with why. Why is it I live here? What is it I want to achieve? Why? And you look at Perth. So we came back to Scotland from Australia. We lived in Australia for 7 years and we loved it.
In Perth, Australia, was it?
In Perth, Australia, yeah. So coming back to Perth, Scotland made the change of address a bit easier and just one less thing to confuse me. But no, we in Perth, Australia, it doesn't rain for 6 months. You know, you tell people that in Scotland and they just think, wow, that's great. But when you're out there, you get fed up of it being sunny every day.
And every animal trying to kill you.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, yeah. Even the friendly ones. And so you know, I had a little bit of a joke. I would go into the newsagents in the middle of summer and I would say, I hear rain's forecast. And they would just look at you aghast and in horror. And I go, yeah, July. And, you know, but we loved Australia. Our 2 eldest boys were born in Australia, and we came back when my wife Debbie was heavily pregnant with Amelia. And we were sorry to leave Australia, but happy to come home. And all our friends thought we were nuts. Why would you leave Australia? What, including my father. And I explained to my dad, he says, why you come back to Scotland? Because my father's
he's a fifer.
He's a fifer. and you know, everything I owe is to my parents and other people that help me, and I love my bits. But why you come back to Scotland? I said, well, Dad, I said, I'll come back to see grumpy people like you. And I said, you know, and spend a bit of time with family. And he's going, it doesn't seem like a good enough reason to me. But no, we came back and it's been a huge success. We wouldn't have been able to found Merlin in Australia because our support network was non-existent. It's friends. And that's a big thing. You know, if you're running a business, it's not a 40-hour week. If you want a 40-hour or a 37-hour week or whatever it is people work, you know, go and get yourself a job at Tesco's. If you want to build a business, you're working until it's done. You've got to take time off and a bit of self-preservation and care and have other interests. But you're not doing a 40. It's an 80-hour week. You know, ask any entrepreneur. And if you have a dream about building something big and selling it, it's 10 years. So anyone listening there, if you're on your business journey, if you can do it in 20 hours a week and it only takes you 2 years, you are brilliant. You know, great. I'd love to hear from you and things like that. But generally, the statistics, if you're successful, it's going to take you 80 hours a week and it's going to take you 10 years. And along that journey, you're going to be lying on your bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering why you're doing it at times. And at other times, you're going to have these moments of elation where you just thank the people that have allowed you through mentoring and direction and encouragement to get to where you are and make some special contributions.
It's actually one of the themes I certainly have with my staff or people I've mentored is we forget that we've become sort of an instant culture. You know, everything now we buy the iPhone and no assembly. You know, it's not Lego, and actually it creates this thing. We want jam now, but no one wants to plant orchards. You know, no one wants to do the long-term sort of building the health of a business or building the health of anything, an idea, and what you learn in that building, which then allows the right jam, you know. But we try to cut to the chase, and there isn't a reality placed in people, especially with the young generation who are watching YouTube videos of all these successful whatever influencers or whatever they are. expecting it to be quick and now.
There's you know, and I suffer from it as well. It's that immediate gratification, you know. So I love chocolate, you know, and every now and again my brain goes, that's you have to have chocolate, and it's just that instant gratification. And now I'm buying these family bags of minstrels. You know, I never used to do that. So and I'll eat the whole thing, but it is that instant gratification. And I think understanding what you want to achieve and how it's done, and then how your perceptions might be wrong or skewed, it's a great defence, and it's a great help, and just sets a little bit more realism, you know. So yeah.
What someone's? I mean, is there a problem when I hate this word, but entrepreneurship? I always get this wrong. But you know, is there a sort of a lack of it in Scotland? Do you feel that the business culture is not healthy here?
I think problem. Let's not view it as a problem. Let's view it as an opportunity. So it's if we recognise what we're good at as individuals, as groups, as races, and we're all different in countries and things like that. So in Scotland and the UK, we're not very boastful, and that's not a bad thing. You know, I quite like a little bit of humility. I really, really love, I've got a strong connection with flying and the forces in the RAF, and I just absolutely love the way that the RAF is understated. Unfortunately, in business, it's not quite the same. I think the Americans are much, much better. So this is just generalisations, where they're self-promoting. No one is going to seek you out to buy your product unless you're special and very special. So you have to promote yourself, make them aware, gain their interest, and then move them to motivation to buy from you. And the only person that's going to be promoting you to the max is yourself and your team. So you have to get out and push. So I think that's an opportunity in particular to Britain, that we're better. And Britain has a history of developing some excellent solutions, in Scotland in particular, and you know, whether it's the light bulb or the pneumatic tyre or anything like, you know, things like that, you know, just driving through. And then we lose the mass production across the Atlantic to America, and they capitalise on. So the World Wide Web, British chap came up with that, but actually we're not making anything off it. If it was in America, that would be channeling prosperity into America, just like iPhone.
Yeah, we don't keep it in. We sort of lose it to others who are more ready for it almost.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always found it interesting that like the Scots have done well around the world. You know, like you take that sort of stoicness and sort of self-deprivation even a little, but you put it against an adversity wherever it is, they thrive. You know, they just find a place and they go, give me a challenge.
It's like someone saying, an oil industry business in Perth, Scotland, that'll never work. Let's just see what we can do about that. No, you're right. And I think also Scotland's traditionally a poor country, but it's an innovative country, and I think it does come. There's innovation comes from necessity, and there's definitely links.
Poor in what sense?
Poor from financially and opportunities. So people have had to go abroad to pursue opportunities to better themselves, to live and eat at times. So they've been driven to go out. They don't have that comfort of a bountiful harvest on their doorsteps. It's not like they're living on a Pacific island where they go out and catch their dinner within 40 minutes. Then they can spend the rest of the day, just relaxing. I'm choosing my words carefully. and when Scotland, you've got to work for it. You know, the weather's going to bring you challenges, storms, and all those areas. So I think there is a determination to succeed that's just hardwired.
Not that. What's it like being successful?
I don't know. Maybe we could go and find someone and have a chat.
See, there's your Scottishness coming back. And I realise that it's one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because most people are trying to get to something. They're building their business, they're creating it. But I feel you're quite unique in the sense that you have achieved these things. Merlin won awards, or you met the Queen and stuff like that. And so what is that view? What is that place like? That people
It's just as uncomfortable as not being successful, but you get this little bit of self-satisfaction, which again isn't necessarily good or positive. So I remember when, so I'll come back to why we started the company, so my why. But when we achieved building a vibrant business that employs 20 people, and many of which are high income earners, so it's where we're making a considerable contribution to the local economy. And I remember thinking, oh, that's good, right? What do I do next?
Yeah.
And a little bit at all right, what do I do next? And that's just as uncomfortable as when you're starting out trying to make it succeed, although you don't have to worry about putting food on the table at that point. But it's okay, you've got this, because we're all driven by a sense of purpose. And once you've delivered on your purpose or your objectives, you get a little bit lost. So
Michael Phelps, the swimmer, talked about his heavy depression actually after winning the 8 gold medals and achieving an unbelievable achievement. The next 3 years were hell for him. So how did you deal with some of that? The other side.
Let's come back to answer that. We'll come back a little bit further. So many people hold an aspiration to start their own business. And people listening, I would say, give it a go. Throw yourself into it with your eyes open. There's no point in mortgaging your house and just going and being flippant and throwing things away. And there's definitely no point in just giving up your job and throwing yourself into whichever business idea it is you've got. Do it with a bit of purpose.
What are some healthy practices if you're beginning a business?
So I think if you're beginning a business, you've got to know what the addressable market is. So if you have a brilliant idea, so I want to make cork drawing pins, and I've got a long-held ambition on cork, and I was in Portugal and I saw these trees, and it was a beautiful farm, and the people were lovely, and I thought, I'll buy the cork from Portugal and do that. If I've not looked at what the market is, then there's a threat to the success. And so how many people are going to buy cork drawing pins? How much will it cost to make them? What's the margin? So again, the fundamentals. What's the addressable market? Is there a market there? Are you copying? If you're breaking ground, if you're being really innovative and no one else is doing it, that's actually going to be harder than if there are competitors in the field and all you have to do is do a better job than them. So understanding how you make that. So business fundamentals, you have to be able to make money. So let's talk commercial business. And you have to be able to make a good margin. And a good margin means that you sell it for more than you buy or it costs you. And it's as simple as that. That's business. Everything that you basically sell things for more than they cost. And if you can do that, you've got a successful business. And what happens are people make it complex. And other inputs. So, my tip would be look at your addressable market. Then, how are people going to connect to buy? So, how will they know you're selling these things? How much will it cost you to get that information out in your marketing and stuff? And how are you going to do it continually? And what positioning strategies do you need? So how are people going to perceive you? What is it you want to be perceived as? And then something that very few people ever think, what's your end point? So in your business, what are you going to do? What does success look like? What's the end point? What's your exit? And there will be an exit. You are going to exit your business. You don't have any choice in that, either through death, through selling it, or it going bust, or just thinking I've done that and moving on. So if you can plan your exit and work out what it takes to deliver against that, it's good. So when we started Merlin, I started it because the strongest part of me was I didn't want to die wondering. I didn't want to die wondering whether or not I could start and grow a genuine business. So not just I've been consulting as an engineer for years, and that's good income, but that's not a real business. You're just consulting. It's not like building a company. So that was one of the core things for me. Could I actually do this? So that was a personal challenge.
Were you in your 20s, 30s, 40s?
No, 30s.
30s.
So, and I think I was 38 or so, about 38.
There's a sweet spot, isn't there?
There's a sweet spot.
You mentioned that. Can you just add?
Yeah. There's a sweet spot. So what happens is when you're young, dumb, and eager, you leave school. I don't care how bright you all are. You're young, dumb, and eager. I hope you're eager, and I hope you're enthusiastic. And if you're like me, you make up for skill with enthusiasm. So I was never a particularly skilled footballer, but I ran around a lot, got in the opposition's way, and became a reasonable player in defence, just getting in people's way. So then as you go through, you gain skill, and if you still have that will, so will and skill to combined the success. And then if we leap forward, when I'm 80 or 90 or 110, if I'm getting on a plane, I'm going to want to be going to somewhere I want to go to. I'm not going to be getting on a plane and timing my journeys so that I can sleep on the plane to avoid the cost of a hotel. And I'm not going to be combining journeys such that I can fly in overnight to one place, do my business meetings, go back to the airport, fly overnight again to the next place so that I can get as maximum sales meetings as I possibly can with a minimum expense, which is what we did back in 2016 when we were recovering from it. So you want to be where you've got the energy to do that, and recognise that later in life you don't want. There's not many people want to be doing those type of things. So somewhere around late 20s probably to 40s, if you're going for a high growth business that's going to take that energy in 80 hours a week, so that there's a sweet spot in age where you've got the knowledge and the energy. And the key part, it's not these individual things that we're talking about. The key part is the key part is the awareness, recognition, and determination or aspiration to look at what your strengths and weaknesses and what you're doing are. So recognising your character traits and then making sure the other people in the business are balancing your character traits. Because if you're all Gordon Gekko, that's not going to be as successful a business as if you've got a mix of driven, pleasant, collaborative, your personal and energy levels and your personal endurance and willingness to put up with nonsense.
How do you do? I mean, I remember when we were starting Blend, and one of the biggest things is that fear, that thing that's in you, because it's not about the outside. There's an internal space that you wrestle with, like, is it going to be successful? What am I doing? Is this a life crisis? It's whatever the questions you ask yourself. Like, how do you process some of that?
So one of my the most terrifying moment I had in business, in creating a business, was when I took on my first lease. So
likewise,
started the business working from home. I was working from the kitchen table. We've still got the table, and in the garage. And then so we'd two young boys and a baby girl, and my wife would pop in and say, right, I'm just popping to I'm just going out to the shops, can you look after the boys? I'm going, no, I say, I'm working, I'm at work. And she goes, no, you're not, you're sitting in the garage. I'm going, oh. And then it became quite obvious I needed to get out the house, and just sort of, so I leased premises on York Place, across from the library, above the chemist shop, and the lease was £2,000 a year. And then with the services, so you've got to look closely at everything. It's the devil's in the detail. Get into the detail. So then the service charge and the phone and the internet, it was going to be sort of £4,000 a year, and it was a 5-year lease. And I remember thinking, gosh, I see. So we didn't have any money. We didn't have significant funds to invest in this. We had make money along the way, and we've never taken any debt at Merlin, which we might do now, but we've grown without debt. And I thought, gee, if this business doesn't work, not only am I not going to be able to feed the family, I'm going to take on debt in this office, so I'm going to be due £10,000 rent that I don't have money to pay, and that was palatable. I could actually taste the fear when I took that on, and I just took, and even though it was only £2,000 a year, I thought, God, okay, right, we'll just go and do it. And that's where you need the support network, your friends, the people encouraging you and just giving you a little bit of common sense to say, okay, look, well, if it doesn't work, how are you going to extract yourself? You know, let's be aware of it, but let's not spend all our time worrying about things that haven't happened. Let's put our energy into making it a success.
And do you have a support group? Like, do you have mentors or people that you go... What do they look like in your...
None of them are as handsome as me. No, sorry, they're all more handsome than me. But so, Sandeep, you're one of my support group.
Wow.
So you're like I'm sure you realise that, and if you don't realise it, so my support group are everyone I meet basically. I have some very key close mentors that are actually described as mentors, and they've changed and been added and used all the way through. So in pure business terms, if you have a consultant and you'll get consultant advice and that, you work with these people for 1-2 years, whatever, you'll have taken most of what they have to offer, get rid of them, get a new one. You know, that's just a hard term. So but in actual fact, what happens is you build a relationship, you get some great advice, and then these people are still there that you can go back to in future. And hopefully it's a two-way street and you're helping them. So my mentors, when you start business, you have no money. We've just been talking about not having any money. So I can't pay for a non-exec director, or couldn't. And I can't pay for a mentor. But I would be at these industry events and dinners and Scottish Enterprise organised events, which are exceptional. You know, get along to these business gateway events, get along to Scottish industry and look for the people that have the success that you want to emulate and perhaps have a bit of knowledge and have the scars along the way. And I found that on these events, one would be brilliant, one would be a waste of time, and one would be a bit mediocre. And I would try to go to one a month. So the success was, and I never had time to go to them. I always thought, God, one of these meetings, God, I've got this stuff to do, I've got the accounts to do, I've got sales calls to do, I've got to organise this new equipment, you know, I've got to hoover the office. You know, I never had time to go to it, but I made time because repeatedly I went along, thought, after the meeting, I thought, gee, I didn't have time not to be here today, because it's doing things cleverer. It's not working extra hours, it's working smarter, and mentors can give you tips into that. And mentors are particularly important when things are going badly and you have a friend to speak to, because it's lonely. It's very lonely building a business.
And you need perspective on the
perspective.
issue.
So I have one who's worthy of mention, Colin Grant, and he'll buy next time we're in Blend. But I had second secretary quit within a few weeks, and I'll tell you, she phoned me. She said, "You micromanage me. You do this, you do this." She was pretty cutting, and most of it accurate. And she said, "I can't work with you. I resign." And she did that by text, and I thought, really? Doing it by text? I thought, well, okay, fine. And she's older.
The modern world.
Oh,
again,
no, she's older. She's older as well. And I just thought, really? So anyway, we're really, really busy. And I got home, and it was one of these moments. I was lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to cope? I've got so much to do. I've got these clients need this work done. I've got to keep the marketing. I've got to get to the bank. I've got these premises. And I phoned Colin. Hi, Colin, it's Iain. Oh, hi, Iain. Colin's always upbeat. And I'm going, hi. I said, Colin, it's awful. I say, I feel overwhelmed. So be honest with your mentors.
Yes.
You're not a facade. They're there. And he goes, well, what's up? And I say, this girl's just quit. You know, and he goes, good. He says, if she's not for the business, we'll find someone that is. And immediately that just changed my mood and perspective. I thought, you're right. If it's not her fault, my fault. Anyway, it's like, let's just go. And he goes, and what's overwhelming? You ask him, well, Colin, you know, I've got my hoovering to do and my dusting, and I've got, you know, and I still haven't cleaned the windows and I've got to polish the car.
This is an oil rig drilling business. Those were your number one.
So I'm using those as metaphors. And he said, and Colin, and here's a bit of advice. So write this down. I'll say it twice if anyone that's still with us on the podcast. Pick the top 3 things that make you money and do those. And once you've done those, pick the next 3 things that make you money and do those when you're overwhelmed. Okay, so we'll do that again just so you can get your pencil. When you are overwhelmed in business, if you are ever fortunate enough to be absolutely buried and overwhelmed in business, thinking, oh my goodness, where are we going to go? Pick the top 3 things that will make you money and do those. And then go for the next 3. And don't worry about the 4,242 other items down the list. As long as you're making money, you will survive to get to those. And if you make enough money, employ someone to do it. And that's the next key, absolute key. As soon as practically possible, get help. So we enlisted, because of previous experience at other businesses, I'd seen this work personally for me. Everybody tries to do things themselves. Don't. If you as an engineer are bringing in £50 an hour, £70, 200, 400 if you're a solicitor or whatever you're bringing in, but you have bookkeeping to do and you can hire a bookkeeper for 15, 20, 25, whatever the cost is, pay them to do that, to release you to do the tasks that will bring in more value. Now, you won't see that initially, and at the start, you never have enough money. It's always a compromise, but you should be striving towards paying the value of the task in hand, not using your time. So an example, successful solicitor businesses or lawyers, they'll never let a partner stand at the photocopier to make a photocopy. That partner could be on the phone billing hundreds of pounds an hour, which are not just paying her wages or his wages, they're paying for the office, they're paying for the software, they're paying all of these things in the juniors. So what they'll do is they'll use people at the right level to do the right task. And that is really, really important. Delegate your task out, and you will be more successful. When you delegate, you'll make mistakes. You'll not set clear objectives, which then you run the risk of micromanaging. Also in micromanaging, sometimes people don't have the skill, so you'll be dragged in to micromanage it, and that's you've picked the wrong person. So all of these problems, the solution to them are in the toilet. So we'll come to that in a minute. So the toilet, all the solutions are in the toilet, so in your business. So when you want to bring people on as soon as you can, and bring them on in a contract basis. So you don't need, if you're a small business, you don't need a bookkeeper for 40 hours a week. You probably only need them for 5, and I'll tell you what, they're going to be much more effective than you are. And so bring them on 5 hours a week. So you've now got to pay, but that's 5 hours that releases you to grow. It's 5 hours that releases you to help with the process so that they know what they're doing, so you're not having to describe everything to them, write it down, steal it from your friends. Call me, I'll send you all our process. You can take it and just adapt it as you wish, to use, because we've written it all already. Most of it works. Some of it's rubbish. Some of it's brilliant, and there's lots in between. But if you can make it slightly better and you have a good one, send it back. Send me one back. But the problem with who made the hire, the problem with who didn't do the sales calls, the problem with the person that got the mistake wrong, that all comes back to you, and the answer is in the mirror, and the mirror is in the toilet. So when you're toiling, get in there, look in the mirror, and that's where the problem is. Yeah. So guess what? That's brilliant, because that's where the answer is too.
Yeah. Okay. A couple of. I mean, this is great and fascinating. Because it's rare to meet people who've been there, done that, and you've seen sort of different. A couple of things. One is, how do you deal with failures? How do you deal with things that don't go right?
I've got a lot of experience in that. So
give us an example, if you have. One of my issues I've found over time is when you read biographies, autobiographies, you always find the resolve after the failure. Meaning, something bad happened and then we were fighting about it. But all our lives, there are dead ends, you know.
Oh,
You just
yeah,
gotta
yeah, loads.
cut. So, what does that look like? Oh,
So the most important thing with a failure is find someone to blame and distance yourself from it.
you can't run away from
Yeah.
yourself, though.
No, okay, that's a joke, right? Don't do that. Don't do that. That's very important. The failures are all mine, and the successes are the team's, right? That's what you should be trying to do. So the failures are yours, irrespective of who's been doing it. If you've appointed the person, if you haven't directed them enough, or bits and pieces, if you've tried something, I tell you what, I would rather have a long list of failures than no failures. So for me, failure, the way to look on failure is well, it's very popular at the moment to talk about it's okay to fail, you know, and I get a little bit uncomfortable with that, because I think what it can do is it can mislead people.
Yeah,
It's
to tolerate.
and say, oh yeah, well, we tried all that. Yeah, the investors. Yeah, we've lost all your money, but don't worry, that's okay. We've been learning. Well, I'll tell you what, if it's my money, it's not okay.
Yeah.
Right? It's absolutely not okay. So I'm very keen on getting honesty and candour across in my messaging, which occasionally makes me unapproachable, which is fine because it's more time for me.
Yeah.
But and again, there's a little bit of a joke. The failure. I think I would rather say it's what you want to do is have a goal, but you want to have taken a view on what your market is, a view on, is there a market for cork, these pins, you know, and if there isn't and you know it and you still have a goal, then you get the stupid sticker, you know, and it's okay to wear the stupid sticker. Just put your hand up and say, oh yeah, well, I've failed. It was my stupidity. I've learned from it, but we'll move on. And as long as you haven't lost the ranch, it's okay. Failure for me, I'm trying to think of some good examples. There'll be loads. We've had so many fails, which have all been down to me. One from many years ago before Merlin was I bought a car through my consulting company, and I didn't realise that you buy that net, not gross. So the consultant company had made, say, £30,000, and I bought a car for £30,000, but I didn't realise I had to pay tax on that £30,000. So I didn't actually have £30,000. All I had was 24, whatever, and I bought a car for 30. And my accountant pointed out to me, going, Iain, no, that's not your money. That's until you've paid tax on it and stuff. So that was something that's a learning in financials. And then from that, mentors can be friends. Anyone with a bit of knowledge, challenge. So we had a friend when we were younger, worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers, or one of the big three anyway. And I was setting some stuff up in the consultancy business, and I was aware of my lack of understanding on finance and the importance, because I just stubbed my toe on this guy. So this girl, Rasheen. So I'd say, Rasheen, I say, I'm going to take you out for dinner. I say, and you're going to tell me all about accounts. I'll pay for dinner, you pay for accounts. And I remember the time my wife wasn't very happy with this. I said, well, you come along. I said, so I'm sitting with Rasheen, and Rasheen's great value. And I said, look, this is what I want to do with the business. I want to do this. We're going to do blah, blah, blah. And she's going, well, you can't do that. I said, well, why not? And she said, well, you can't do that. It's illegal. I said, but the business is making this money, and it's a discount in order to make this money, so surely I can claim that relief from the tax office. And she's going, you can't. And I'm going, well, I think you can. And she's going, look, you can't do that. You'll go to jail. And I'm going, okay, now we're clear. Right, the next point. So there's a few things in there. I was mistaken in my view, but I had taken the challenge and was aware that my knowledge was weak, went to someone that I knew had the expertise. They came and challenged it. I pushed back, but then they made their point. So they knew me well enough. They were quite comfortable telling me I was talking rubbish. And then I adjusted it and went forward. And all the way through, all of our business success is leverage off that. It's speaking to other people. It's taking in, it's not doing exactly what they say, but it's taking in their opinion. It's checking it with others or on the internet. You know, I've trawled the HMRC legislation on the internet to support some of the things I've been doing. And my accountants phoned me once and said, Iain, there's an allowance here. We know it's right. It's a little obscure. It was like a daily expenses allowance that you could claim. we know it's right, but we just don't know where it is in the license. And I said, yeah, it's here, it's down on that page. Now, I'm not an expert, so just working with that. Other fails.
Losing clients. I don't know, family life.
There's been plenty, and they're actually. Let's come back to that, but because these are actually the most important things. It's the things you got wrong more than the things you got right that people can benefit the most from.
Yeah, I mean, a phrase is that failure teaches you more than success.
Yeah,
and there's lessons there.
Yeah, we've small investment in New Zealand with some people I knew who are exceptional engineers, and they went bust. And they went bust because they didn't have the commercial skills and business knowledge, and I was too far remote to be on top of it. And that was a bit of an education and a thing, so to remind us that different disciplines have different skills, and sometimes if they're not open to understanding their limitations, they're not going to get the success that they potentially could. And that was a great example. The Bloodhound supersonic car, so it's all gone quiet just now. So Bloodhound went into liquidation, and this is a car that designed to do 1,000 miles an hour, break the land speed record of 770 miles an hour, and inspire the next generation of scientists, engineers, mathematicians. So real focused on the STEM skills. It suffered significant delays, which isn't a surprise because it's building a car to do 1,000 miles an hour that's huge. That's like going to Mars, but what wasn't a surprise or a failure that was avoidable was the project went bust, and it went bust because they weren't focused on the money. So in your business, do the three things that make you money. Focus on the cash. So a great piece of advice I had was. Do not release spend authority. And I get my peer network group. I've got some people that I did a growth advantage program at Strathclyde University, which was great. Just challenge from my peers, and very supportive. And one of the policies we set was no one could spend more than £50 without approval. So even the some of the managers and engineers and things, if it was company money and not rebillable expense, the limit's £50, and it came to the managing director. Anything over £50 had to come to the MD, and I had advice to do that and stick with it. And at the time, I was thinking, but I want to give people responsibility and ownership and that to do. But I did stick with it, and boy, am I glad I did. Yeah. The number of things that I've seen that just had to come past me for approvals and things, which would have gone on. And not be the best use of cash and resources. It just opened a whole channel of information on what was happening in the business. And I'd always taken the approach, when it gets too onerous, I'll change the limits, or I'll give other people that approval, or I'll just move it. And I never ever did, because it never got that bad.
We're in recession.
Yep.
We're going into probably some of the worst periods in a business sense, or an economic sense rather than business sense. Well, if you had £1 million right now, where would you put that money? Like, what do you think Scotland needs
for the long term or the short term? Or any. Oh gosh. Right. Sometimes things have to fail. Sometimes things have had their day, and it's time for change. And if you put money to them, you're propping up things which aren't efficient. So, for instance, if you're in a business and you've got too many people for that business, if you don't address it, your business, you run the risk of failure, and you run the risk of everybody being out of job. Right? That's a really, really difficult thing, and a very unpleasant and stressful thing for the woman or man at the top of the business to go through, but they have a responsibility to everyone in that business. Merlin's no different. I'm not using Merlin as an example, but Merlin's no different. So, but if you just look on culling people because they're a resource, that's a little bit cold. And there's always a different way to do it, and the answers are in the mirror. You know, you're the person at the top. You're the person who get the answers, and other people will provide some answers. So, I did a tour at Glenfiddich Distillery when I worked in Aberdeen, and one of the things which really struck a chord was they were going through a recession. Glenfiddich were in a recession. They were losing money. They're a family business, I think, based in Granton. I don't think it's Dufftown. It's Granton. No, it's Dufftown. And anyway, it's a beautiful part.
Yeah, it's up in Speyside.
Yeah. So they didn't have enough money. They're making a loss. They had too many people. If they made these people redundant, there was no other jobs for them in the village. So they sat and thought, right, well, we can't just keep going like this because we threaten the viability of the whole business and everybody will be out of job, but we've got too many people. So they looked at their business. They took the energy and drive and had the aspiration to look to solve the problem. And they recognised they were buying in the cardboard cases, the tubes that they put the bottles in. So they said, right, let's make these, and we'll put Fred, Tam and Mary into the cardboard tube manufacturing thing, and that all the way we'll use that money. So they did that, and guess what? They were so successful, they now supply cardboard tubes to other whisky managers. So it's
the opportunities.
Determination to succeed. So what would I do with £1 million? I wouldn't just be giving it out willy-nilly. I would be investing it where there's opportunities for growth. So out with the recession, my 90% focus would be education. Get people young, give them the aspiration to grow and set their sights beyond the moon. Don't just aim for the moon. There's so much more out there, you know, and telling them you could be great. It's down to you. The world, you know, is at your feet. Just go on and because there's a lot of kids, especially in Scotland, that don't get that message from home. You know, they don't have that aspiration or enthusiasm, and if we can get that into the kids and the sort of youngsters, I'm talking about age 4 and up.
Wow.
You know, inspire. That's where the payback is. But you won't get that payback for 20, 30, maybe 50 years.
That's the orchard planting, isn't
That's
it?
the orchard planting.
Yeah.
That's the orchard. All our politicians want to pick fruit and give it away. Yeah. You know, we need to plant orchards. So if I had £1 million today, I would be investing in business. I would be putting a bit of money into so right here and now, I'd be putting a bit of money into mental health and helping people as we come through this recession, because there's a lot of people going to find themselves in positions they've never been before, and it's going to be highly stressful, and that money invested to help them quickly is going to reduce the cost overall in business terms. But really, I'm looking, how do we bring in businesses which aren't just for the sake of which generate or create prosperity, generate wealth, because then that gets distributed around to others.
And really, some of that is just in the vision, is just putting into people's mind to start looking for those opportunities, not waiting for handouts or waiting for a government to resolve something. It's sort of creating that culture again of saying, like,
so.
Yeah.
So you've got to give people, you've got to put in place that opportunity to teach people to fish. You know, there's no point in teaching people to fish if you don't have any lochs or rivers. You know, so we're going to teach you. We're not going to give you fish. We're going to teach you to fish. Yeah, that's
but
great.
There's no rivers here.
There's no rivers here. What we're going to do? Okay, you're right. Yeah, but you know, the policy from government says I have to teach you to fish. So be quiet, sit down, and so I would be investing money in the long term, and I'd be quite happy for some of it to miss. You know, I'd be quite happy if we'd have. So we talked about failure. You're going to have projects. You go, yeah, that one didn't work. Yeah, great, but the other two did, and you know, you miss every shot you don't take. But there's no point in just having silly shots. I guess that's what I'm rhetoric.
There are business owners right now, maybe listen to this, who are just panicking, or, you know, just worried or uncertain. All that whole, there's a pressure there. What would any advice be from you for those type of people?
Pick the 3 things that make you money and do those first. Look after yourself, right? Talk to someone. when someone comes up and says, "Are you okay?" If you're not okay, say no. Don't be so bloody Scottish about it and you're telling people that you're going to struggle through on your own or that. No, when someone says, "Are you all right?" If you're not all right, say, "No, actually, I'm really struggling." I'm saying it's okay to struggle. So, all of us struggle at times, and people that don't are really, really lucky, but everyone struggles. And just like the REM song. So I would say to them, it's a tough time. You can't change that. We're in a storm. You can't change the storm. What you can do is you can adjust your sails to make it through. You, as the business owner and leader, are the most important person in the business, and so many people are looking towards you for inspiration and direction. So if it takes 30 seconds, 3 minutes, however long in the car before you get out and walk in that office door, as the CEO, you're the chief energy officer. So when we went through the downturn, that I was the captain of Mellon for recently in sort of 2015, 2016. I would have a couple of minutes. I'd have a deep breath before I walked in the door in the morning, because people need to see that I believe in the business. And I was at the point I'm looking at it thinking, "Whoa, this is really tough. I don't know if we're going to survive." And be honest with the team, because they know what the economy's like, and they know how much money you're making, and they know how often the phones are ringing. So if you walk in and you're going, "Yeah, don't worry, everyone's fine," they know that's not true. So you've got to be realistic. So you can come in and say, "It's tough at the moment. It's going to get better. This is how we're getting on." So you need to over communicate from what you've done before, probably, and you need to be honest but not fearful. You need to have a positive slant on the message, but it must be believable. And actually, sometimes people need to hear that there may be redundancies. If you say, "Look, this is where we're at. We're monitoring it. We have reserves to get us through," or maybe we don't have reserves to get us through. "We're going to look at whatever it takes for the business to survive." That may involve people taking sabbaticals. It may involve short working weeks. It may involve some of us losing our colleagues, no longer being here. But the message that I promoted was, this business will survive. And again, this came from peers and mentors. It was a friend, actually, an engineer. He'd been through a liquidation process. His company worked in renewable energy, wave power, and basically just turned up one day and the door was locked and the liquidators were in. So if you're working for a business that goes into liquidation, what happens, most people don't know this, and the more people don't know it, the better, because they've not experienced it. But as a business leader, you need to be aware. So you'll be liquidated at the end of the month. What will happen is you won't be able to make payroll, and that's when your company is unviable and you can't gather money, and basically the liquidators are called in. So what that means are people turn up to work, the door's locked. There's a little sign saying, "Sorry, nothing happening here today or ever again," and or you'll not get paid your salary. So the employees are out of work. But worse than that, they're not going to get paid for that month that they've done, potentially, or they'll be put in with the creditors. So not only can't they pay their mortgage in future months or feed the family, they can't pay their mortgage or feed the family for that month, and it will take many months till it comes through the creditors. So in these times, speak to friends, speak to people that have been through a recession before, and be absolutely, if you're in that just now, be absolutely brutal with your costs. Just be absolutely brutal. Not knee-jerk, but brutal. Every pound's a prisoner.
It's one of the nice things we found in Blend was that we're 4 directors, and actually, for all the times we've fought like a married couple, the 4 of us. Actually, this has been one of the richest time for us, because there's been 4 of us, and each one of us has been able to bring a different strength to the meetings. We're looking at numbers, we're looking at things, and and I really feel for the lone trader or the person left. Even management, you sort of get isolated at the top. And I like what you're saying. Just go get help. Make sure there are other voices and perspective in what you're going through, so that you're not trying to endure this by yourself.
It's vital.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing I liked is if if your team is strong, or if you created that culture, the team is flexible as well. We found before, even when COVID came and furlough kicked in, but there was a period before furlough kicked in where we were having these conversations with the staff, and actually we found the staff were willing to take some of that hit.
Yep.
And realize they were willing to adjust, and he almost created a hierarchy in the staff, saying, well, you've got kids, or you've got family, or you'll take my shifts and I'm okay, I live with my parents or whatever. There was actually more out there than just these numbers and tables and spreadsheets we were looking at. Absolutely. And I think it was nice for us to explore. I mean, furlough kicked in and it sort of took a lot of that weight off us, but it was a little glimpse to say, actually, there's a better health here. And I think sometimes it'd be good for leaders to realize there's things there that they can manage a path with and through.
The team are going to make your success, and they're going to solve the problems. You don't have to solve everything. You just have to provide leadership, and yeah, absolutely. You've got, if you go into the people on the ground are going to come up with the best solutions because they're experiencing all the problems day to day, and the things that we're looking at in management and leadership, although vital to the business, actually the efficiency of the business and the drive, if these people know that they're responsible and have the ability to influence that, and you use the yes word when you're speaking to them more than the no word, they're going to keep coming back. And what I've seen success with is setting freedom within a framework, so people know where the boundaries are, and anything within those boundaries they can come up and suggest improvements. So if they're suggesting improvements to making all our printing double-sided a few years ago, or getting a hot water tap in the kitchen to save us boiling kettles, or changing a process on sales to make it more efficient, automating something in admin, pushing our standards that we pay our suppliers, so small suppliers at Merlin, so our payment terms are 30 days. So you start with the legal framework. That's our legal framework, 30 days. Small companies, family businesses, our aspiration is to pay them within 15 days of a correct invoice.
So you set your own standard.
Yep, so we set that standard. That's the aspiration which we measure. But if the invoice comes in and it can be included in a payroll run without causing any extra effort, if it just goes in, there's no point in delaying it. Just put it in, touch the piece of paper once, put it in, go through, approve it via process so people understand, and it gets paid. So we've paid invoices on the same day, not through any extra special effort, but it's just come in, they fit in. And then when you're having problems, these people are going to help you out. But no, the team, getting the team together, and most people, in fact almost all, are pretty good. And if you've got alignment and you've used the tools like core values, and people have got the same alignment of what they want to achieve with the business, and the values that are important to it that drive those behaviours, then in general you'll get a much better result than you might expect. And then occasionally there'll be people that do need a little bit of a realigned or a chat. So one of the things we had in the downturn a few years ago is things were tough. We were loss-making for 5 out of 6 months. It was pretty healthy loss-making as well. We're talking hundreds of £1,000s. And I went to the team and I said, this is what's happening. There is another side to this. We will get through it. We've got some reserves, but actually we're watching very closely to see what happens. And I said, we're all going to have to take a cut. This is what we're looking at. But contractually, we all have to volunteer. If anybody says they're not taking a cut, then we have to go through the process. If we all agree that that's where we're going with it. And with one of the individuals, I had to have a conversation. They suggested that they didn't think they should take a cut, and which is fair. Okay. And I explained to them. I said, look, we have work for one person in this discipline, and we've got 5. I say, so if you're not going to take a cut, what's going to happen is we'll have to go through and either enforce cuts upon people, or more likely we'll have to make some redundancies. We'll retrieve. And I can tell you now who that was going to be. We would have a fair and due process and things. But the person
already revealed themselves.
The person, if you reveal that you're not there for the other people, and there's not some other circumstances, you're thinking, okay, everyone here's pulled together. This person is. Let's get them aligned. So we had a chat. They became aligned pretty quick, which was good, and we were able to protect all of the team. But that's
it's fab. Ian, it's been great talking to you. It's been it's good to get insights from people who've been up there, and I'll briefly we'll talk about you love airplanes, and you have an airplane, and you you is it just an engineering thing, or where did that come from?
Gosh, I've always been interested in flying and flight and being a pilot, and originally I wanted to join the RAF and be a fast jet pilot. I really fancied that, but I worked out that on the balance of probabilities and success, I was better to go and study engineering, and I've been fortunate that the position I find myself in, I'm able to fly recreationally, and I built a Spitfire replica in Australia, and I didn't build it. Someone built it for me. I built part of it, but I had someone that knew what they were doing to do most of it, and through, so that we got something that was safe. So I use the aeroplane as an analogy that I don't take risks. I'm not a risk taker. Right? You've got to be a risk taker as an entrepreneur, but I use this as a little bit of a story to get a story to get your opinion across and make it believable, and you'll have far better traction. So I'm not a risk taker, yet I fly an aircraft that I built in Australia. And people just go, but that's crazy. I say, well, no, I'm not, because what we do is it was built with careful engineering process, with a set of skills that we knew were right, and then it was tested, and then it was checked.
Managed risk.
Exactly. So what we're doing is we've identified what's the risk, how do we manage it, and where does it go? And it's exactly the same as what Merlin do in drilling the longest wells in the world. What we're doing is we understand that we need to have equipment that's fit for purpose. We need to check the equipment so it's manufactured to a certain specification, it's maintained to a certain specification. The equipment's part of the risk, but the biggest risk factor are people. People make mistakes. People think they know things that they don't. More often than not, it's endemic. So we've got a good engineering design for our well. We know the engineering design works, and we've done that before, and there's a bit of people in that, but we've got the right skill set to do it. We've got the right equipment to drill the well, and then the next key area that goes wrong are when people are drilling, they make mistakes, the drill bit gets stuck, and then they have to drill around, and it costs millions and millions of pounds, or perhaps the well is even a failure. So what we do there is we train the people. So we've got the right engineering, we've got the right mindset, and then when we're drilling the well, we put people on the rig to help guide it. So it's like the circle of success almost to get that through. And the aeroplane's exactly like that. Before I started it, I worked out that the greatest exposure was becoming bored with the project, or stress from the family not giving you the time to do it. So I agreed with my wife that I was going to do this, and got her to sign off sign off in Merlot, and a large glass of Cab Sav. Okay, just fingerprint on the paper here. No, so I was quite upfront to say this is the time it will take to do it, and then it's very easy to start projects and very easy to finish. And I think it's Sir Francis Drake said, the value is in the middle. So we recognise that starting the project, the enthusiasm to start a project, great. We're going to build a business, that's great, yeah, fine. And the enthusiasm to exit and take some money or pass on the reins to others is great. But the value bit is the bit in the middle, the bit on taking these flights overnight, the going into a client's without having slept, the up all night to deliver a report, going and doing the invoicing when you've had a 12-hour day doing all the engineering, but knowing that if we don't invoice, we're not going to pay. So the value's in the middle. So we recognise building the plane, that boredom threshold. So that's why I engaged someone to help me to carry us through. And then we worked out. So all of our friends were all having children in those days as well. It was all the start of families, and I wasn't seeing much of my friends. So in Australia, it's a bit warmer. We're building this in a hangar. We had a fridge full of beer, a radio. So I told them, look, every Wednesday night is hangar night. I'm going to be at the hangar on Wednesday night with a fridge full of beer, and we've got music. Come on down and we'll catch up, and you can and we'll set you some jobs, or you can sit on a stool and chat to us, or whatever we do. So we turned it into a bit of a social occasion as well. And one night, which just sticks in my memory, we had about 10 people along. So I must have owed them all money. I don't think I've got 10 friends, but they all came along.
It was the beer.
It was the beer. That's what it's beer. That's it. Beer. That's
It's easy. You know?
beer and coffee, chocolate. That's what you need for success. It's the BCC.
Yeah.
So it took us an hour to give everybody a job. So it went around, give everyone a job, and our friends that were most irritating got the really sticky, horrible job. But
Now they know who they are.
But yeah, exactly. But when we tidied up after everyone had got, like sort of 10 o'clock, it wasn't their like school night, and we'd accomplished about 2 weeks' work. We'd gotten through such a stack, and it's looking at where are your exposures, how are you getting through, so that the airplane typifies what you can do with a project, just understanding the weaknesses. And Sandeep, I have to pinch myself. So there's lots of people fly, and there's lots of people build planes. Fewer, but lots of people build planes. This is a Spitfire replica. So when I rock up somewhere, I get pole position. I get to park at the front. So
you get an Aston Martin and a Spitfire turning up somewhere.
Seriously,
my goodness.
Seriously. So the Aston Martin, I was at a reception in Edinburgh Castle, and I drove up the Esplanade, and I drove through the Esplanade, up through the castle, through the gates of the castle, to the very top, to Queen Mary's Tower, whatever it is, where the Great Hall, and I parked outside the officers' mess up there. I rocked up in the Aston Martin with my bow tie on, and the guy's just going, hello, sir, what are you? I said, yes, along for this thing. That's great. I said, I'm just going to park. Yes, on you go, sir. And all the other people are going, how did you get your car up here? I said, it had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Same with the Spitfire.
Yeah.
You just get access all areas. So we started off the thing talking about image and cars. There is no skill in driving or having an Aston Martin. There's obviously there's the opportunity in place to get that, but these things can open doors. And I got that early on when I worked at an oil company, and I had the same car as the exploration manager, and he was a lovely chap, French Canadian, and he was quite a big, large in life. And when he found out I had the same car as him, he would pop in, pass him off. How's the car? What's happening? It was endearment. Yeah. So I had access to one of the top guys in the company. So when we were drilling some exploration wells and had some problems, and I needed stuff from his team that they weren't giving me, I just went to see Francois. I said, Francois, I'm really struggling to get this, and I've asked the guys, could you give them a wee bit of a push? So he would go in and say, get this stuff through to the drillers, guys, and it was great.
This guy has the same car. Where can people contact you? Like, are you okay if someone wanted to get in touch, or is Merlin
come through Merlin and state that you were instructed that you could get me through Merlin, and ask that the message is passed on. If you don't get someone coming back to you, come to me via LinkedIn.
Or drop into Blend and
leave a message.
Podcast at blendcoffee.co.uk, and I'm sure Iain would be.
Every message should get to me at Merlin, and if I can reply directly, I will reply directly, or it might come through my secretary. But if you leave a message and it doesn't get to me, you're doing me a huge favour by letting me know there, because it might be someone's been busy, forgotten, or
there's a flaw in the system.
Yeah. It could be the email, it could be the person. It's going to be the person. It's people are people. No one wants to do a bad job. We're all human. We all make mistakes. So give them the benefit of the doubt, but please let me know.
Yeah. It's a question I've been asking people, and I'll sort of end with this. The 50-year-old you, what would you say to the 20-year-old you?
Give it a go. Give it a go. Get out there, give it a go. Don't be more afraid of not trying than failing. That's what you really want to. And give it a go. It's okay not to know what you want to do. It's okay to change your mind. It is not okay not to give it a go. And be kind to everyone. You don't know what's going on in their day. So I'm very direct and I'm very abrupt. Sometimes I play on that a little bit. But I love people. I love seeing people grow. And you've just got to remember that you don't know what's going on in that person's day. Perhaps they've just made 5 people redundant, and it's been really hard for them. So they're a bit snippy with you because of that. Or perhaps someone in their family isn't well. So but no, it's 20-year-old me. Yeah, give it a go.
Give it a go. Well, Iain, it's been a pleasure, and that's gotten very fast. So, and hopefully we'll get you again and talk about Spitfires and something else. Your next venture. But thank you for your time and taking the time to come and speak to us.
No, it's a pleasure, Cindy. Thanks very much for that. I feel privileged to be asked. Do you have an alarm clock to wake people up now?
See, that's the Scottishness coming back in. Thank you again. If you've enjoyed this chat and would like to maybe join us, or you know someone who's got an interesting story to share, get in touch. podcast@blendcoffee.co.uk. Well, traveller, till next time.
Cheerio.